back to another episode of Deep Dive, where today we're going to be taking a look at Jon Cooper and his coaching career with the Tampa Bay Lightning. As always, my name is Jake Ricker. Today I'm here with my very good friend, Michael Wax. Michael, how you doing today, my friend?
Doing well. I'm very happy to talk about Jon Cooper, especially after last night's celebration. But let's get a little bit more into his history and talk about why people might not like him and why people do.
And that's exactly why we're doing this show, is because if you ask Lightning Twitter on what kind of coach Jon Cooper is, you probably would get two different answers. You'd get half the fans that would say he's one of the greatest coaches in franchise history, and the other half that would tell you he probably should have been fired by now. So our goal for today is to figure out and see, where he really does fit in that line. But let's start off with the history of Jon Cooper before he got to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Cooper coached in a couple of leagues. He coached in the NAHL, he coached in the USHL, and he coached in the AHL. And he actually had a lot of success in these leagues. In the NAHL, he actually won 2 championships, both with the St. Louis Bandits. And then with the USHL, where he spent 2 years with the Green Bay Gamblers, he won a championship in his second year there. And then with the AHL, he also won a championship with the Norfolk Admirals. So lots of success for Cooper before he got to the majors.
Yeah, lots of success. And the Admirals were, at the time, the farm team for the Lightning. So he was the perfect guy, and we'll get into this later, to sort of jumpstart the next phase of Lightning success, because he had success with many of those guys that are currently on the team, whether it's Tyler Johnson or Andre Palat, or I believe Nikita Kucherov was a part of that team. Vasilevsky might have played a couple of games that year for the team. You got some really veteran players on that team. I think of someone like Mike Angelidis, who was basically the instrumental in making sure that the Crunch was a good enough team to win, provided scoring depth. He was given a lot of good prospects, but don't diminish Cooper's coaching ability, because he really made it count.
Absolutely. And he got to coach for the Syracuse Crunch in 2012. He coached 65 games for them. But then, as you mentioned, it ended pretty quickly for him because it was the Tampa Bay Lightning giving him the call and calling him up to the majors. He was hired by the Lightning in the 2013 season after they let go of Coach Guy Boucher. So Cooper would take over there. He only coached a total of 6 games, I believe, with the Tampa Bay Lightning in 2013. Actually 16, I apologize. He went 5-8, and they did miss the playoffs that year, but not a full year for Cooper. And his first full year come in 2013 to 2014. Cooper's had a lot of success now with the Lightning as well. When you look at if you look at just the full year, so starting in 2013, 2014, Cooper has only missed the playoffs with the Lightning 1 time, and he made the playoffs in his first full year, where they went 46, 27, and 9. Totaling 101 points and finishing second in the Atlantic. That's really impressive for a first-year head coach, even if you have a very good team behind you.
Yeah, he was amazing as the coach. He really just let the kids play, which is a main criticism that we have of him now. Is I'd like to see him let the kids play a little bit more, and he doesn't. But at the time, he said, all right, full range, 2013-14. We didn't have a great season last season and lockout shortened season. Let the kids play. Did Ben Bishop help him make the playoffs? Absolutely. Ben Bishop was spectacular in his first full season with the Lightning during the 2013-14 season. But, Cooper made adjustments, and he just let the team go. Now, during the playoffs, one of the main criticisms, beside the fact that we didn't have Ben Bishop, was that he didn't really make those adjustments, and the Lightning ended up getting swept, which is something that we saw 5 years later when they faced the Blue Jackets. They had a healthy goaltender this time, did not make adjustments, and ended up getting swept.
Yeah, but there's no denying he absolutely has had success consistently with the Lightning. In his second year, he made the Stanley Cup Finals, which is very impressive to do again as just your second year as head coach. Cooper's only missed the playoffs once, as I mentioned before, and so that was their technically worst year under head coach Jon Cooper, and they still had 94 points. If you guys remember, they missed the playoffs by just 1 point that year. So very, very close. It wasn't a bad season for the Lightning by any means. So, I mean, 1 point there, and the Lightning could have made a playoffs every year under head coach Jon Cooper. So their playoff success has obviously, been well. They've made multiple conference finals. They made a Stanley Cup final. Obviously, this year the Lightning have made it back into the Stanley Cup playoffs and are now currently in the Eastern Conference Finals at the time of this recording, up 2-0, by the way, which is huge for them. But a lot of people still criticize Cooper. So I thought something we could do here to really see how good of a coach he is to compare him to some of the other coaches around the NHL. Now, Michael, if I asked you who you think one of the greatest coaches of our generation is anyway, who would your answer be?
It would probably be Joel Quenneville.
Joe Quenneville, exactly. He's a legendary coach that many people know, and he's now currently coaching for the Florida Panthers. But when he started off his career, he coached for the St. Louis Blues, actually. And he had great success with the St. Louis Blues. He made the playoffs every year with the Blues before he was fired. He would coach the Blues for a total of 8 years. He was fired in that 8th year, but a lot of success for Coach Q in those early years. Now, something some people might say is, well, if Quenneville got to coach 8 years for the St. Louis Blues, and Cooper is also approaching his 8th year here as well, shouldn't Cooper be fired as well, as Q never won his Stanley Cup? Obviously, the Blues made a change. Well, I think there's a couple of key differences between these two teams. It's something you got to look at here. When the St. Louis Blues did move on from Coach Q, they never won a cup after that. So it was another very long time. They only ended up winning their first Stanley Cup just a couple of years ago. So firing your head coach doesn't always mean immediate success afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. You put it correctly. You look at a team like the St. Louis Blues with, who had Joel Quenneville, firing Mikey O in the middle of last season, and then bringing on Craig Berube and immediately winning the Stanley Cup. Or a couple of years ago, Mike Johnston getting fired by the Penguins, and Mike Sullivan comes in and win back-to-back cups. That is an anomaly. That is not the regular standard. There is a grace period of a coach coming in and that team either floundering or thriving under that coach. We saw it with the Tampa Bay Lightning in 2013-14 under Cooper. So, I always say that short-term success is not as good as long-term stability, because you look at a team like, and I know this is a different sport, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers fired Tony Dungy, brought in John Gruden. John Gruden helped them win a Super Bowl, and I'm forever grateful for that, even though I wasn't really that old to witness it. But the Bucs haven't made the playoffs since 2007, and they made the playoffs twice more under Gruden, which is, frankly, one, unacceptable, but two, it shows you that long-term success comes when you are a good team that has a good foundational coach. And Jon Cooper is that coach for the Lightning. I don't understand why his detractors want him gone for that particular reason.
Yeah, I think you nailed that on the head. And a couple of things I want to mention too with Coach Q is that, a difference with him and Cooper is that Coach Q only made the conference finals once. For Jon Cooper, he made the Stanley Cup finals. He's made 2 Eastern Conference finals now. So there's been a little bit more success in the playoffs, you could say, with Cooper when compared to Coach Q. Now, Coach Q would win his first Stanley Cup 13 years into his coaching career with the Chicago Blackhawks. This was actually only his second year with the Chicago Blackhawks, and many might say, well, Jake, the Chicago Blackhawks are a very good team back in 2010 in that couple of years where they won their 3 Stanley Cups. And you could often compare them to the Tampa Bay Lightning of today. And while, yes, I would agree with that, you might say, well, they probably should have won a cup by now with Coach Q. Here's the difference with that. Coach Q had 13 years experience at that point when he started with the Chicago Blackhawks. That's going to make a very big difference for a coach. And Jon Cooper, who's only in his 8th year, still has a lot to learn, but is still finding some success.
Yeah, we talk about how Cooper and Quenneville are similar. And, I'll give the edge to Quenneville. He is the better coach. I think we saw that in the 2015 Stanley Cup Finals. But he, and by he I mean Cooper in this scenario, has taken his falls. He's really made sure that he's understood what makes this team go. And yeah, part of it, and part of the problem that we have with the Lightning right now, I think for Cooper, can be traced all the way back to Yzerman and JBB. We talk about, the Lightning didn't have enough grit. Well, that's not the coach's fault. That's the general manager's fault. And the coach is putting out the guys that he wants to. Now, say what you will about the fact that Ryan Callahan only played in 2 games of last year's playoffs. That was a little concerning. But I think that Cooper has done a good job of putting out lines that are applicable to what he's been given.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And you bring up a good point. Not all of this is always on the coach. You can't look at a team's success and say, well, they've never won a cup yet. Some of that can be on the players and the GM, as you mentioned. This is a team game. Everybody has to work at everybody has to put in that 100% effort in order to everything to click and to win that ultimate Stanley Cup. And so the fact that they've had consistent success is a good sign for Cooper. And even though they haven't been able to get over that final hump, you still have to expect they should be able to do that soon. Now, we could sit here and compare Cooper to a lot of coaches all day, but I do want to talk about some of Cooper's records, because he's not just a good coach and consistently makes the playoffs and does really well with the Lightning. He actually holds multiple Lightning records as a coach. And keep in mind, he's only coached for the Lightning for, I think this is his 8th year. So Cooper holds the record for most wins in the regular season. He has 348 wins, which is just outstanding, out of 578. He also holds the record for most playoff wins with 47 wins. So 2 very huge records to have when you're a young coach for a franchise.
Yeah, he has been great. I don't know how I could sing his praises anymore. He has done what he's needed to with this franchise. You see players like Kucherov and Stamkos for the most part of his career, and Point, Vasilevsky, Hedman, Sergachev. He's done a good job at making sure that these star players have a system in which they can thrive in and get victories from. Because that's the whole point. You're trying to win. So, Cooper has his flaws, no doubt. I think that comes in the playoffs. And the fact that he doesn't have the highest winning percentage in Tampa Bay Lightning playoff history kind of speaks to that. Guy Boucher, even though he had 1 playoff series, had a bit of a more structured system in the playoffs, and that helped him gain that higher win percentage. But, Cooper has learned his lesson in the regular season for the most part. Let's see if he can learn his lesson here in the playoffs. He is currently doing very well.
Yeah, and I think that's the perfect way to wrap it up by saying that, yes, Cooper has his flaws. And on paper, yeah, the Lightning probably should have won a Stanley Cup by right now. But as we talked about in this show, he's actually had a lot of success, and compared to other coaches, especially like guys like Coach Q, he's really not that far off than these other guys. The Lightning have done very well under head coach Jon Cooper. And I think until you see him struggle in a season, there's no reason to move on from him. I think other things could be fixed and worked on if you want to go ahead and keep head coach Jon Cooper. But that's all we have for you guys today. I would love to know what you guys think. Are you a fan of Coach Jon Cooper, or do you still think that he should go if they're not able to win the Stanley Cup this year? If you guys did enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more content like this. And we will see you guys in the next one.